John had always been drawn to quiet neighborhoods, places where life moved at a gentle pace, where neighbors exchanged waves and children played under the warm sun. After years of demanding work, he finally found the perfect spot to settle down and enjoy a slower rhythm. His new home sat on a peaceful street lined with mature trees and freshly painted mailboxes. It was exactly the refuge he had hoped for. That afternoon, John was tending to his small garden in the backyard, savoring the gentle breeze that stirred the leaves above him. The soft hum of distant lawn mowers and occasional bird songs blended into a comforting soundtrack. It was the kind of peaceful moment he hadn't known he missed. Suddenly, the calm was broken by the sound of footsteps approaching the fence. John looked up to see two men in dark uniforms walking towards him. They wore matching polo shirts emblazoned with a crest and badges clipped to their belts. Both looked serious, their faces set in an expression that suggested authority. John straightened up, curious but cautious. The taller man cleared his throat and spoke. "Good afternoon, sir. We're security officers with the Homeowners Association. We need to speak with you about a complaint." John nodded slowly. "Certainly. What seems to be the issue?" The shorter officer stepped forward. "You're currently trespassing on community property. We have reports that you've been accessing areas reserved for residents only, and we need to verify your identity." John's eyebrows lifted slightly. "I'm sorry, but this is my property. I own this home. Could you please clarify what area you believe I'm trespassing on?" The two men exchanged a quick glance, their tone tightening. "Sir, we have orders to detain anyone violating the rules. You're asked to come with us." John's calm demeanor didn't waver. He raised a hand slightly. "I'd like to see your identification first, please. I'm happy to cooperate, but I need to be certain of your authority here." The men hesitated briefly before pulling out laminated cards from their belts. John took a closer look and noticed that the badges were generic, lacking any official insignia from the city or state security agencies. The logos on their shirts were unfamiliar, and the cards didn't include contact numbers or issuing organizations. That doesn't look quite right, John thought to himself, but he kept his tone respectful. "Thank you for showing me your IDs. May I ask which department you represent?" The taller officer replied, "We're contracted by the Homeowners Association to maintain security. We're responsible for enforcing community guidelines." John nodded thoughtfully. "I appreciate your work to keep the neighborhood safe. I understand the importance of following the rules. However, I am the homeowner here, and I assure you I have full access to my property." The shorter man's expression hardened. "That's not up to you to decide right now. We're authorized to detain trespassers." John remained composed, stepping back toward the house. "I'd prefer not to escalate this. Please allow me to document this interaction and confirm with the HOA board. I'm sure this is a misunderstanding." The two men moved closer, their voices firmer. "Sir, if you refuse to comply, we'll have to take further action." At that moment, John reached into his pocket, fingering the edge of his phone. He wasn't about to let this situation spiral. Years of training told him to remain calm, observe carefully, and avoid confrontation unless necessary. He began quietly recording the interaction, hoping to gather evidence. The men didn't notice as the tension thickened. A neighbor stepped out onto their porch nearby, watching the exchange with concern. The men glanced briefly at the witness, but said nothing. John held his ground, steady and unshaken. Inside, he started a secure call, alerting trusted colleagues about the strange encounter. The two men, unaware of John's background or the call he'd just made, were about to learn that this homeowner was not as ordinary as he appeared. John kept his phone discreetly in his hand, maintaining a calm, steady voice as he continued the conversation with the two men in uniforms. Despite their firm stance, he refused to let the situation escalate. "Let's take a moment here," John said evenly. "I want to cooperate fully, but it's important we proceed with clarity and respect for everyone involved. The taller man shifted uncomfortably but replied, "Our orders are clear, sir. You're being asked to come with us for further questioning." John nodded as if considering the request, then replied, "I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. However, I do ask for your full names, badge numbers, and contact information for your department." The men exchanged uneasy looks, but seemed reluctant to provide the detailed information. The shorter man muttered something about protocol and handed John a card with a phone number, though the card lacked official seals or designations. It was, in fact, a simple printout with a generic name and a local number. John took the card, scanning it briefly. "I appreciate that. I will verify this information with the Homeowners Association directly." He kept his voice firm but respectful, careful not to inflame the situation. Inside, John's mind was already running through the next steps. The men's reluctance to share official identification, the vague information on their cards, and the absence of any known security company. Names all raised red flags. He suspected they were not authorized security personnel, but he needed proof and to keep the interaction calm until help arrived. "I'm recording this conversation," John informed them gently, not raising his voice. "It's just to ensure accuracy and protect all parties involved." One of the men glanced nervously toward the phone in John's hand but didn't ask him to stop. They seemed unsure how to respond. John decided to use his training to subtly de-escalate. "Let's work together to clear this up," he said. "I understand the importance of community safety and I want to help. But this needs to be handled through the proper channels." The shorter man scratched the back of his neck. "K-Luck, we've had complaints about unauthorized access and we're just trying to follow orders." John nodded in understanding. "Kay, I'm glad you're taking concerns seriously. That's how a neighborhood stays safe." Meanwhile, John discreetly typed a message to his former FBI contacts, providing his location and a brief description of the men and the situation. He requested immediate verification and assistance. The two men remained tense but less aggressive than before. Perhaps they sensed John's calm confidence. Or maybe they were simply unsure of how to proceed. A few neighbors had started to notice the scene from their windows or porches. Some whispered to each other, unsure of what was unfolding but glad. Someone was standing firm and polite. John glanced around, making eye contact with a couple of neighbors and nodding subtly to reassure them. He continued speaking in a calm tone. "If you're truly authorized, I'm sure the Homeowners Association or local law enforcement can confirm your identities." The taller man grumbled. "We're just trying to keep things in order." Replied, "I respect that. Let's ensure that order is maintained through proper procedures." Time seemed to stretch as the men hesitated, caught between asserting authority and uncertainty. John knew that any misstep could escalate things unnecessarily, so he stayed composed, projecting quiet strength. Then, his phone vibrated softly. Message from his contacts confirming that no HOA security company had authorized anyone matching the description of the two men. John's heart quickened. His instincts were correct. He now had confirmation that these were imposters. He looked directly at the two men and said, "I've just confirmed with the Homeowners Association and local authorities that you are not authorized to act as security officers here. I suggest you step back now before this becomes more serious." The men exchanged alarmed glances. Their attempt to intimidate had backfired against someone who was calm, prepared, and clearly experienced before they could respond. The sound of sirens approached in the distance. John nodded toward the street and said quietly, "Help is on the way. Please wait for the real officers." The imposters looked around, caught off guard. They hadn't expected backup. John's composure and quiet control had turned the situation around. What could have been a confrontation had become a moment of calm authority. The true security of the neighborhood was about to be restored. The sound of approaching sirens grew louder, signaling the arrival of real law enforcement. John glanced toward the street and saw two police cruisers pulling into the neighborhood. He took a deep breath, his calm exterior steady but alert beneath. The two men in dark uniforms shifted uneasily. They exchanged quick looks, suddenly aware that their act was about to unravel as the police officers stepped out of their vehicles. They called out firmly, "Sir, we've received a report of unauthorized security personnel in the area. Can you tell us what's going on?" John stepped forward, still holding his phone discreetly in his hand. "Officers, these two men have been claiming to be HOA security and attempted to detain me without proper authority. I've recorded the entire interaction." He handed over the phone and the officers began watching the recording. The two men's faces paled as they realized the evidence against them was clear and undeniable. The lead officer turned to the imposters. "You're under arrest for impersonating security personnel and attempting to detain a homeowner without legal authority." The taller man stammered, "We were just trying to do our job." The officer's tone was firm but professional. "Your job is illegal, and you'll have to answer for it." John felt a sense of relief as the officers carefully placed handcuffs on the men. Despite the tension, the situation was under control, thanks in large part to his calm approach and quick thinking. Once the imposters were secured, the officers turned back to John. "Can you confirm your identity?" Smiled faintly. "John Mitchell. I'm a retired FBI agent. I contacted my former colleagues as soon as the situation escalated." The officers nodded appreciatively. "You handled this well, sir. Your training certainly showed." John shrugged modestly. "Years of experience help, but anyone should remain calm and gather facts in situations like this." As the officers began their investigation, neighbors gathered at a respectful distance, murmuring among themselves. Whispers of surprise and concern rippled through the crowd. Many had never imagined such an event unfolding in their peaceful neighborhood. One curious neighbor approached cautiously. "Are you okay? That must have been unsettling." John nodded. "It was unexpected, but everything is fine now. Just glad the police arrived quickly." Another resident, an elderly woman, shook her head. "I can't believe someone would try to pretend to be security officers here." John agreed. "It's unusual, but it underscores the importance of verifying who you're dealing with." Officers interviewed several neighbors, gathering details about when the imposters had first appeared and any interactions they might have had. Meanwhile, John sat down with the HOA board president, who had arrived upon hearing the news. She looked shaken but determined to address the situation. "We had no idea these men were operating here," she admitted. "This is a serious breach of trust." John offered reassurance. "It's a good opportunity to review your security measures and communication protocols to ensure residents know who is authorized." The HOA president nodded thoughtfully. "Absolutely. We want everyone to feel safe and respected." As the afternoon sun began to dip, John felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. What had started as an unexpected confrontation had turned into a clear example of how calm, respectful communication and attention to detail could resolve a potentially volatile situation. The police wrapped up their preliminary investigation, promising to keep the neighborhood informed as the case progressed. Before leaving, one officer turned to John with a nod of respect. "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Mitchell. If you ever need assistance or advice, don't hesitate to reach out." John smiled. "I appreciate that. It's good to know the neighborhood has professionals watching out for it." As the officers drove away with the imposters in custody, the crowd began to disperse. The peaceful rhythm of the neighborhood was returning. But the story of the day's events would linger in the minds of residents for some time. John stood for a moment longer. Looking around his backyard, he thought about the importance of vigilance, patience, and clear communication. This was more than just a quiet place to live. It was a community that could learn and grow from challenges. And with that, John stepped inside his home, ready to help the neighborhood move forward stronger and more united than before. Once the imposters were taken into custody, the neighborhood slowly returned to its usual calm. John stepped back onto his porch, letting the tension of the afternoon ebb away. Despite the relief, he knew the situation was far from over. This unexpected event had exposed vulnerabilities, and he was determined to help his new neighbors find lasting solutions. John reached for his phone. He dialed the local police precinct's community liaison officer, a friendly contact from years of working in law enforcement. "This is John Mitchell," he said. "I wanted to update you on today's incident with the fake security personnel and discuss how we can prevent similar situations." On the other end, the liaison officer responded promptly. "John, thank you for the update. It's unfortunate this happened, but your swift action helped a great deal. Let's coordinate a meeting with the HOA board and neighborhood representatives to develop a security protocol that everyone can trust." John nodded to himself, even though the other person couldn't see it. "That sounds like a good plan. I'm happy to assist with any training or advice I can provide." Later that evening, John attended a gathering at the community clubhouse. The room was filled with residents, board members, and local officials. The atmosphere was serious but hopeful, as everyone sought to rebuild confidence and clarify the neighborhood's security measures. The HOA president opened the meeting with a thoughtful statement. "Today's events remind us that vigilance and transparency are vital. We owe it to each other to maintain a safe environment built on trust and clear communication." John listened carefully before offering his perspective. "In my experience, misunderstandings often arise when people aren't sure who to turn to or when procedures aren't clearly defined. Establishing official channels for reporting concerns and verifying identities is essential." Several residents nodded, appreciating his straightforward approach. A board member asked, "John, what can we do to ensure that only authorized personnel are recognized and trusted by our neighbors?" John replied, "First, proper identification is key. Security personnel should carry badges with unique serial numbers and be listed on a publicly available roster maintained by the HOA. Neighbors should be encouraged to verify identities if they have any doubts," he continued. "Second, regular communication through newsletters or meetings helps keep everyone informed about who is authorized to act in the neighborhood and how to report any suspicious activity safely." An elderly neighbor raised a hand. "What about those who might be new or unaware of our rules?" John smiled warmly. "Education is crucial. When someone moves in, the HOA should provide a welcome packet that includes security guidelines, contact information for official personnel, and tips on what to do if they encounter something unusual." The discussion moved toward establishing a neighborhood watch program, with residents volunteering to keep an eye out while maintaining a friendly presence. John offered to help coordinate training sessions, drawing on his background in law enforcement. As the meeting wrapped up, the HOA president thanked John for his guidance. "Your experience has been invaluable today. Together, we'll make sure our community remains a place where everyone feels safe and respected." Walking back home under the evening sky, John felt a sense of purpose. What had started as an unsettling encounter had blossomed into an opportunity to build stronger bonds and improve security for all. That night, as he prepared for bed, John reflected on the power of calm and clear communication. He knew that challenges would come and go, but with cooperation and vigilance, the neighborhood could face them with confidence. And with that thought, he settled in for the night, ready for whatever the future might hold. In the days that followed the incident, the neighborhood slowly began to heal from the shock. The story of the fake security officers spread through casual conversations and friendly check-ins. But there was also a growing sense of unity and resolve. Residents came together to share their feelings and ideas. Determined to move forward positively, John found himself frequently approached by neighbors eager to learn more about what had happened and how they could help ensure their communities' safety. At the local coffee shop, he sat down with a few residents to discuss ways to foster better communication and awareness. "It's comforting to know you're here," one neighbor said. "Your experience really made a difference." John smiled. "I'm happy to help." It's important that everyone feels safe and respected, and that starts with clear information and mutual trust. Back at his home, John drafted an informational flyer for the HOA to distribute, outlining practical tips for recognizing authorized personnel and reporting concerns. He emphasized the importance of staying calm and verifying facts before reacting. The flyer included advice such as, always ask for official identification. Contact the HOA or local law enforcement if unsure. Avoid confrontation. And document any suspicious interactions. Share information with neighbors to keep everyone informed. John also proposed organizing a neighborhood meet and greet event where residents, HOA members, local security representatives could come together to build rapport and share updates. At the next HOA meeting, the board welcomed John's contributions and approved plans to implement a neighborhood watch program. Volunteers stepped forward, eager to participate. John offered to lead training sessions focusing on observation skills, communication, and emergency procedures. As preparations got underway, John took the time to get to know more neighbors on a personal level. He attended community events, exchanged greetings on walks, and offered assistance whenever needed. His presence became a reassuring constant. One afternoon, as John helped a neighbor carry groceries, the woman remarked, "It's amazing how much better things feel now. I think we're stronger because of what happened." John nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes challenges reveal opportunities to grow closer and work together. The HOA president reached out to thank John for his dedication. "Your leadership has brought a new sense of confidence to the neighborhood. We're grateful," John replied modestly. "It's a team effort. When everyone cares, great things happen." Meanwhile, the local authorities continued their investigation into the fake security officers. The community was kept informed of developments, reinforcing a shared commitment to transparency and accountability. Throughout the healing process, John remained a steady and approachable figure, balancing his background with a genuine desire to be part of the neighborhood fabric. His story reminded residents that calm, informed action could overcome uncertainty and fear. As weeks turned into months, the neighborhood found a renewed sense of peace. The bonds between neighbors strengthened and trust in local security was restored. John felt proud to be part of a community that had faced adversity with resilience and grace. One evening, as John sat on his porch watching the sunset, a group of neighbors gathered nearby for a casual barbecue. Laughter and conversation filled the air, a joyful soundtrack to a community reborn. John smiled quietly to himself, knowing that while challenges would always arise, the true strength of the neighborhood lay in its people working together, supporting one another, and always ready to face the future with steady hearts. As the Neighborhood Watch program officially launched, a new sense of security settled over the community. Residents embraced their roles not as enforcers, but as neighbors looking out for one another. Fostering a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect, John took the lead in organizing the first training session. The community clubhouse was filled with a mix of longtime residents and newcomers, all eager to learn how to contribute effectively to the neighborhood's safety. John began the session with a clear message. "Our goal is to create a safe environment where everyone feels comfortable and supported. This is not about suspicion or confrontation, but about awareness and communication." He shared practical tips on observing unusual activity without jumping to conclusions, emphasizing the importance of documenting details like descriptions, locations, and times. John also encouraged participants to remain calm and to contact official channels if they had any concerns. One resident raised a hand. "What should we do if we see someone trying to impersonate security or authority figures again?" John replied, "The best approach is to avoid direct confrontation. If it feels unsafe, step back and call the police. If it's safe to do so, try to gather information discreetly like descriptions or vehicle details and share that with authorities." He also highlighted the importance of verifying identities. Authorized personnel will have clear identification linked to the HOA or law enforcement. If you're unsure, ask for this information politely and report any inconsistencies. The session included role-playing scenarios to help residents practice responding calmly and effectively in various situations. Laughter and thoughtful discussion filled the room, easing tension and building confidence. Afterward, John stayed to answer questions individually, offering reassurance and guidance. The community's eagerness to learn and participate inspired him. Meanwhile, the HOA board worked with local law enforcement to improve communication channels. New signage was installed around the neighborhood, reminding residents of official contacts and encouraging them to report concerns promptly. John collaborated with the HOA to create an online portal where residents could easily access security information, report incidents, and stay updated on community news. The portal also included resources on recognizing authorized personnel and understanding the neighborhood's safety policies. As weeks passed, the program gained momentum. Neighbors formed small groups to check in on one another, especially elderly residents and families with young children. The sense of connection deepened, creating a web of support that extended beyond security. One afternoon, John was approached by a young mother during a neighborhood walk. "I just wanted to thank you," she said warmly. "I feel much safer knowing our neighbors are looking out for each other. It means a lot." John smiled. "It's wonderful to hear that. Safety is about all of us working together." Despite the positive changes, John remained vigilant. He kept in close contact with local authorities and the HOA, ready to respond if any new challenges arose. One evening, as he reviewed neighborhood updates, John received a message from the police liaison officer. The investigation into the fake security officers was progressing, with authorities identifying individuals connected to a larger scheme targeting multiple communities. John shared the news with the HOA president, who expressed relief and gratitude. "Knowing this was part of a bigger picture helps us understand the situation better. We're thankful for your help in protecting our neighborhood." John nodded. Awareness and preparation are our best defenses. As the community embraced its new security measures, John felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The events of the past months had tested everyone's resilience but had ultimately strengthened the bonds that made the neighborhood more than just a collection of houses. It made it a true community. That night, as John stood on his porch watching the stars, he reflected on how trust, communication, and calm leadership had transformed a tense confrontation into a catalyst for positive change. The neighborhood was ready to face the future together, confident and united. A few weeks after the Neighborhood Watch program was underway, John received an unexpected call. It was from Detective Ramirez, the officer leading the investigation into the fake security officers. "We've uncovered some new leads that might be relevant to your neighborhood," she said. "It appears the individuals involved had connections to a network targeting several communities, using similar tactics to gain unauthorized access and exploit residents." John listened intently. "What can I do to assist? Your knowledge of the neighborhood and the quick action you took have been invaluable," Detective Ramirez replied. "We'd like to set up a meeting between you, the HOA board, and our team to discuss ways to strengthen security and prevent future incidents." John agreed readily. He understood the importance of collaboration, especially when dealing with threats that extended beyond their small community. The meeting was held at the local police station a few days later. Representatives from several nearby neighborhoods joined, along with members of law enforcement and the HOA boards. The atmosphere was serious but focused on solutions. Detective Ramirez opened the discussion by outlining the networks, tactics posing as security or maintenance personnel, gaining trust and then using that access to commit theft or fraud. She emphasized that vigilance and communication were the best defenses. John shared the neighborhood's experience and the steps they had taken since the incident. He described the training sessions, the neighborhood watch, and the new communication channels. One HOA board member from a neighboring community added, We're inspired by your proactive approach. We've had similar issues but lacked a coordinated response. The group brainstormed strategies for sharing information quickly across neighborhoods. They agreed to establish a joint communication platform, allowing communities to report suspicious activity and receive timely updates. John suggested regular joint training sessions, where residents from different neighborhoods could learn together, share experiences, and build a wider network of support. The police committed to increasing patrols in the affected areas, and to providing clear guidelines on how to identify authorized personnel as the meeting concluded. John felt a renewed sense of hope. The cooperation between neighbors and law enforcement was growing stronger, turning isolated incidents into opportunities for collective resilience. Back in his neighborhood, John helped organize a joint neighborhood watch meeting. Residents from surrounding communities attended, exchanging ideas and forming new connections. During one of these gatherings, an elderly man named Mr. Harris approached John. "I never thought I'd be involved in something like this," he said with a chuckle. "But it feels good to be part of something bigger." John smiled. That's exactly the point. Safety isn't just about one street or one neighborhood. It's about everyone working together. The following week saw increased collaboration. The neighborhoods shared resources, coordinated events, and kept each other informed about any unusual activity. John also received updates from Detective Ramirez, who reported progress in dismantling the network responsible for the impersonators. Several arrests had been made, and the risk to the community was diminishing. Despite the positive developments, John knew complacency could not set in. He continued to encourage neighbors to stay alert, communicate openly, and support one another. One evening, while walking his dog, John encountered a group of children playing near the park. Their laughter was a joyful reminder of the neighborhood's renewed sense of safety. A young mother thanked John as he passed by. "Feels like things are finally getting back to normal, thanks to you and everyone else who's been involved." John nodded. "It's been a team effort. It's what makes a community strong." As the sun set over the peaceful neighborhood, John felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The journey from confrontation to cooperation had been challenging, but it had brought something invaluably: a community united and prepared to face whatever came next. Months had passed since the unsettling incident with the fake HOA security officers. The neighborhood, once shaken, had grown stronger and more connected than ever. John Mitchell stood on his front porch one early evening, watching the warm glow of sunset spill across the streets he had come to care deeply about. The changes were tangible. Neighborhood watch signs dotted the sidewalks. Regular community events brought residents together, and lines of communication between the HOA law enforcement and neighbors remained open and active. The uneasy feeling that once hung in the air was now replaced with a quiet confidence. John smiled as he watched children playing nearby, their carefree laughter filling the air. It was a testament to the healing power of community, trust, and persistence. The HOA president approached John, handing him a freshly printed newsletter. "We wanted to thank you again for everything you've done. The community really feels different now." John accepted the newsletter and glanced through. It featured stories from neighbors, upcoming events, and reminders about security best practices. Most importantly, it highlighted how collective effort had transformed a moment of crisis into an opportunity for growth. "It's been a rewarding journey," John said. "The real credit goes to everyone who stepped up and made this neighborhood a safer place." She nodded thoughtfully. "And we're committed to keeping this momentum going. We're planning to establish a permanent safety committee, and we'd love for you to be involved." John considered the offer. His background and experience made him a natural fit. But more than that, he felt a genuine sense of responsibility to support the community he now called home. "I'd be honored," he replied. That evening, John sat down with his laptop to send a message to the joint neighborhood watch network that had grown beyond their own streets. This network connected multiple communities across the city, all sharing information, resources, and support. He typed, Thank you all for your dedication and cooperation. Together, we've shown that vigilance, respect, and communication can overcome even the most unexpected challenges. As he sent the message, John reflected on the lessons learned throughout the ordeal. First and foremost, calm and clear communication had been crucial. By remaining composed during the confrontation, he was able to diffuse tension and gather vital evidence. Second, transparency and education helped build trust. Keeping neighbors informed and engaged fostered a shared sense of responsibility. Third, collaboration between residents, the HOA, and law enforcement created a robust safety net. When everyone worked together, the community was better prepared for anything. John's phone buzzed with a notification and invitation to a community picnic, celebrating the neighborhood's progress. He smiled. This gathering would be more than just food and music. It would be a symbol of resilience and unity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, John thought about how one person's experience could ripple outward, inspiring change and connection. What started as an unexpected confrontation had become a story of hope, cooperation, and the strength found in coming together. The fake security officers who had tried to disrupt the peace were now behind bars, their scheme unraveled by the collective vigilance of many. The neighborhood had not only survived but thrived. John took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace settle within him. Whatever the future held, he knew the community would face it side by side, stronger, wiser, and united. And, with that, he stepped inside, ready to continue the work of nurturing the neighborhood he now proudly called home.